thanks for agreeing to do this. I know you get involved every year with Global Entrepreneurship Week, but still, thank you for agreeing to speak with us today. I've just got a few questions for you, and hopefully it will not take much of your time. You've attended our Global Entrepreneurship Week celebrations in years pre-COVID. What is the importance of this week's event for the young people?
It gives young people a chance to show everything they've learned and everything that they've achieved. And each time I've attended this week, I've always been absolutely sort of inspired and impressed by the young people and everything they've managed to do. This year, it feels more important than ever with having gone through COVID and how difficult that must have been for young entrepreneurs. I feel we need events like this to kind of make everyone feel infused and positive and ready to just go back out there and keep going. And so this year feels more important than ever to show the support for the event.
Do you think we place enough emphasis on the importance of enterprise in this country?
No, I think we need to be looking at enterprise much more. I mean, the entrepreneurs are the wealth builders of the countries. I mean, we don't know what the country is going to look like in years to come. We don't know the new technologies, the new industries that are going to be created. But what we do know is that entrepreneurs are going to play a huge part in that, because they're the people that are creating new businesses, employing new people that are driving down unemployment and building wealth in our area. So I think we need to be looking at this more rather than less, and it'd be great to have more done in schools and more people be informed about other career paths. If people don't want to go to college or university, that there is an other career path for them out there, and that's being a young entrepreneur and setting up your own business and being your own boss. And I think that's a great thing.
Definitely, I agree with you. I wish we had more courses when it comes to enterprising courses at school when I was younger, even though now I'm an aspiring entrepreneur myself, but I've had to go through uni and everything, but I agree with you, there should be more courses focusing on all different age groups. Hull City Council believes in starting early, as you mentioned, taking enterprise skills training into primary schools. As Shadow Education Minister, how do you believe we achieve a fair balance opportunity between those who want an academic course and those who seek apprenticeships and vocational training?
Well, everybody kind of needs a mix of everything, don't they? I mean, nobody can say right now that they know, at whatever age, what the career is going to be forever. Because people as adults are constantly changing careers. We have the fourth industrial revolution. We know that jobs in 20 years are going to exist that we can't even imagine right now. If we look back 30 years and we imagine all these jobs we have now in technologies and using the internet that weren't even there. I mean, who'd heard of an influencer when I was at school, or even knew that that was a job that could potentially exist? So I think giving young people a huge variety of skills rather than forcing them down one particular path, giving them skills in entrepreneurship, giving them skills, vocational skills and practical skills, and also giving them those academic skills as well, but giving them that broad and balanced curriculum, letting them be exposed to a whole variety of different activities and skills and knowledge, I think is the best way, because we simply don't know what the world of work is going to look like in the future.
I definitely agree with you there. There's a lot of new jobs, like you said, as influencers. That's a real career path that young people, are pursuing. And it's something, a few years ago, it wasn't around. And I'm not that old, but even when I was younger, it wasn't something that you could pursue as a career, but it is. And things are changing. And so definitely you do need a mix of a bit of everything to equip you to succeed. 100%. During the pandemic, the government would say that they gave millions to support businesses. However, you were a vocal critic of the government's attitude towards the so-called excluded UK. Why was that?
The government did give a lot of money and support for businesses, that is true, but there were an awful lot of people who were excluded from support, and this was for various reasons to do with how long they've maybe had their business for. So it did seem to particularly impact young entrepreneurs. So people who hadn't had their business for a long enough time were excluded completely from support, and all they were left with was the option of going and signing on for universal credit if they wanted any kind of income. And it just feels like the wrong decision was made there, that young people starting their businesses, just trying to build them, getting it going and just starting to move it forward, hit by the pandemic, which was certainly not their fault. You know, they did nothing wrong, and yet they were completely excluded from any additional financial support. And I tried to urge the Chancellor to have a look at this particular group of young entrepreneurs, have a look at what additional support, but it fell on deaf ears. But I do have to say, though, Hull City Council were fantastic, and I know that they were able to supply some grants and some support to some of those young entrepreneurs, and so I think, but without that, I fear that those new businesses would have gone under. But we can only hope, you know, that this problem will be rectified in the future, and that the Chancellor, if we ever do find ourselves in a similar situation, will be looking at supporting everybody, all our businesses, rather than excluding so many.
No, I definitely respect that, and I agree with you there. A lot of the businesses, even me and myself, I haven't started yet trading. However, I know like the John Cracknell Youth Enterprise Bank, they were able to support some young entrepreneurs give them financial support due to the pandemic. In light of the recent shocking murder of the MP as he met his constituents, what should the country's response be if we wish to retain a democratic government?
Well, I fear that it's not just MPs who are being targeted. It feels that we're seeing this in hospitals, we're seeing this in retail, we're seeing a general rise in people being abusive towards one another. But I think being part of an MP is going out there and talking to people who, you know, live in the constituency, who live in the area, and finding out what they think and what they feel. And I think if that is going to continue, then we need to find a way to disagree with each other in a more agreeable manner. You know, we don't have to hate each other because we have different opinions on things, and this dehumanizing language and the way that some people are viewed. Just yesterday, when I was in Parliament, and we've had Sir David's murder on Friday, and there was right outside Parliament a noose being hung, and people protesting and pointing to it, calling members of Parliament traitors, and indicating that the noose was there for them. So and this was only a few days after the murder of Sir David. So there are ways to make a political point, there are ways to protest, and I'm 100% behind protesting and people sharing their views and opinions loudly and proudly, and marching and doing everything they want. But we don't have to do it in a way that's seen as intimidating or aggressive or trying to shut down our democracy.
I respect that. I really do. I mean, today you mentioned that you're a bit under the weather, but on another day, I wish we'd met, face to face and done this interview face to face. But aren't you tired of Zoom, Teams, as opposed to real life meetings? Or do you think we'll adapt to a bit of both in the future? Or how do you feel about that yourself?
Well, yes, I did get a bit to the point where I'd had enough of Zoom and I had enough of Teams and asking people to unmute or go on mute, or connectivity issues and problems. But I think now I've moved back to doing a lot more face to face. I quite like the mixture. I mean, for today's meeting, for example, it's been made so much easier because I'm still in London, I'm still in Westminster, and we're able to have this conversation because we can interact virtually in a way that we might have to have delayed until I was back up in the constituency. So it does make things a lot easier. So I think for some things it's fine, but there's nothing better, I think, than getting a room full of people together and having those face-to-face conversations. There's nothing better than that. But I think while we can have some flexibility, then that's okay.
I do think a bit of a mix. Like you said, you're in London, but you can still have a conversation with me. It has its benefits and its negatives at the same time. I'm pro mix. I do like working from home and working in the office. It's a good mix. And finally, would you like to wish everybody well at the Global Entrepreneurship Week Awards evening?
Well, I hope everyone has a fantastic evening. I can't wait until we are all back in that room together, celebrating and enjoying a couple of cheeky drinks along the way as well. But have a wonderful time. You all deserve it. Thank you for everything that all of you have done during this incredibly difficult 18 months, and enjoy your evening.